Hi guys, so this week I received a really lovely message on Facebook from a girl who was trying for her second baby and it was taking a little bit of time, and she'd been watching my pregnancy vlogs where I speak a little bit about the fact that it took us quite a while as well to conceive our second child. So I thought I would do a little vlog really to tell you all my story. With Sophia, my first daughter, who is now 2.5, basically we kind of fell pregnant very easily. We weren't really properly trying. It was a happy accident, as they say. And so I guess when we decided to have baby number 2, we just thought, oh, that'll probably happen again. I was really naive and just thought, oh, well, if it happens once easily, surely it's going to happen the same. And in fact, a part of me just was thinking, as soon as I decide to have one, oh, I'm going to fall pregnant, and there we go. But it turns out that it doesn't always work that way, as we discovered. So we started trying for our second child in July 2014. So it's now November 2015. So that was about 1 year and 4 months ago. At the time, Sophia was about a year and 4 months. And we thought, oh, it'd be quite nice if they have about 2 years to just over 2 years age difference. I have a sister and there's about 2.5 years between us, and I like the idea of around 2 years. So we started trying, but we weren't doing any sort of ovulation tests or anything like that, and I wasn't counting or sort of really dating. I kind of had an idea of when I was ovulating, but I wasn't really looking into it too much because, again, I think I just thought, oh, well, we had a happy accident with Sophia. It'll just happen by chance again. So that was in the July. And by the December, January time, especially, I think coming up to Christmas, as we are again now, it just really makes everything more poignant, and the idea of a family and another child really poignant. You're just thinking about your family more, and we'd been trying for about 4 months. Now, there were some times when it probably wasn't possible that I could have fallen pregnant and we were busy or work or whatever, but I was starting to, by the December, feel a bit like, okay, this isn't happening. Maybe we need to try a bit harder or sort of maybe do ovulation tests and things. So we decided in January to start using ovulation tests. I initially tried just, the cheaper ones that you get, I think, from the supermarket. But to be honest, for me, I couldn't quite tell if they were working or not, and it was driving me mad because it's one of those ones where you're kind of trying to tell, is it 2 lines, is it not 2 lines, and does that mean I'm ovulating now or what day? And so in the end I was like, well, this is just confusing me more and making me more paranoid, and it's not really working. So I ended up getting the Careblue ones, which actually tell you exactly sort of when your peak fertility days are, your high fertility days first of all, and then your peak fertility days. We started using those in the January because I after a few days of using the cheaper ones, and I just was like, I don't really know how these work. I decided, I'm just going to splash out a bit on the more expensive ones, and I do know that they aren't cheap, and it costs a lot of money every month. But when you really want a second child or a child at all, I guess you're willing to spend a little bit more, and I personally am glad that we did. But that was in the January and by the April, even though I was every month using them exactly as said, we still hadn't fallen pregnant, and everything we were trying to time exactly when it should be and things. So by the April, I was starting to feel a bit gutted because we'd now been trying really since the July. So what's that, 9 months? And I was also having a few pains in my side. So I was a little bit worried that maybe there was a problem with my ovaries. And I'd had quite a bad birth with Sophia. What's called hyperstimulated when I was induced. I was induced with her because I went 16 days overdue. And it meant that my uterus sort of contracted too much. It's called hyperstimulation. And then after I had Sophia, my uterus was so exhausted that it just kind of collapsed, they call it. So it didn't clamp down as it's meant to. And then I hemorrhaged, unfortunately, after the birth. But I'm fine, baby's fine. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. I'll maybe do a separate vlog on my birth story. But because of my birth then, I really panicked that had maybe done some damage to my uterus, and maybe that was the reason I wasn't falling pregnant. And you really do start to panic. So I was Googling everything. Could this be a reason? And does your uterus heal? And all of that. So I decided then to make an appointment and speak to the doctor, and explained how long we'd been trying and that I was having a few pains in my side and things. So they did refer me to the hospital for some tests, which was great because I felt at least that something was happening, and if something had been wrong, then I would have found out. And so I went to the hospital in May to have some tests done. So they did a test on sort of my ovaries and kind of all around my lower tummy. And everything came back that it was fine, which was a relief, but also you're thinking, okay, well, why is it not happening? But the ironic thing was that little did I know that actually at the time I had that test, our baby had just been conceived a few days before, but I obviously didn't know, and they couldn't tell at that stage. Nothing showed up anyway, and nothing was said to me. I remember at the beginning of May as well doing a pregnancy test, and it was actually on my husband's birthday, and I'd really hoped maybe this is the month, maybe it's happened this month. And the test came back negative, and I cried because it really is really gutting whenever every month you see that not pregnant sign. Because I would get the digital ones as well, because again I just was like, I hate that whole, is it two lines, is it not? I just want to know, does it say pregnant or not pregnant? But when you see those words, not pregnant, come up, it really is heartbreaking. And I know we were so blessed that we had one child already. And, I was trying to say to myself, I've got one, and if that's all we have, we are still totally blessed. But inside, I desperately wanted another one, and I really wanted a sibling for Sophia. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting that. It wasn't that I didn't appreciate what I had at all, but I would have just loved another one if I could. And so every month, obviously, I still was getting very disappointed. And I remember when it was Andrew's birthday, so driving down, we were going to a restaurant, and I was just crying and thinking it's never going to happen. And on my Facebook feed, it just seemed that everyone was pregnant, and everyone seemed to be falling pregnant so easily. I was thinking, why is it not happening this time, and what's gone wrong? And then we went away to Ireland that week for a friend's wedding, back to Northern Ireland. Well, it was actually in Donegal. And then a few days where I'm from Belfast. I started to feel a little bit funny just while I was away that weekend. And my boobs were feeling quite sort of sore and heavy, which is always quite a sign for me that I might be pregnant, but it's also a sign of my period. But my period was about a week late, so I was starting to think, okay, and every day it didn't arrive. I started to think, well, maybe it is, but obviously I'd done the pregnancy test the week before and it was negative, so I just presumed, well, I'm not. But after a few days of still, no time of the month showing, I decided, right, okay, well, I'll do a test. But I didn't even tell my husband because I didn't want to get his hopes up and then it not be, and I knew I'd be disappointed anyway if it wasn't, but I just wanted to know for me at first. So I went and I bought a test, and I thought it was one of the digital ones, as I was saying, because I hate the ones that are 2 lines, but I picked up the wrong one, and I got one of the ones that was 2 lines, and then was like, I think it would look like 2 lines, but no, it's really hard to tell. The second line was slightly fainter. I could see there was definitely a second line, which I thought that means maybe I must be, but I wasn't totally sure. So I went in anyway to my husband and was like, I think I am pregnant. We were over the moon, but I didn't want to get excited until we went and got one that actually says pregnant or not pregnant and how many weeks you are. So we had to fly back to London that day. So we flew back, and then literally driving home, I stopped off Boots and got a Careblue digital test. So when I did it at home, it came back and it said pregnant and 2 to 3 weeks. So which they say to add on another 2 weeks. So it was about 4 to 5 weeks pregnant at that stage. And yeah, so we were over the moon, and I am now 7 months pregnant, which is crazy. So this was all, way back in May time, and obviously it's now November. So this is what I am now. This is my baby bump. And we know what we're having. She's a little girl, and she is very healthy and happy and kicking loads, and I just feel so blessed to have her and to be able to have had a second child. So I just wanted to say to anyone out there who's starting to panic about maybe if your first or your second child or third or fourth, it doesn't always happen as easily as that. And you hear all these stories about people that it happens straight away, but there are lots of stories of people that it took months and months and months. I know people that it took months and months for their first one, and then they fell pregnant straight away with their second one. So it can just be, our bodies are strange sometimes, and it can be different. You can be stressed. And in fact, speaking of stress, the reason why I would recommend doing ovulation tests is because the month I fell pregnant, I ovulated a week later than I normally do. And I think I was very stressed at that time, and I think it just knocked my whole system off. Luckily, I was doing ovulation tests, so I was able to watch all that and monitor all that and knew exactly when I was ovulating. In fact, I thought, I must have just missed this month, or I mustn't be ovulating at all, but I kept doing the tests. And luckily I did, because it then did show me that when I ovulated, and that was the month we fell pregnant. So that was a week later than I would normally ovulate. So your body can change. You may think that you're like clockwork, but different things can set you off kilter. But I do want to say, don't feel too disheartened. It took us, so from the July, I guess we fell pregnant in the April. I didn't find out till the May, so that was 9 months. 9 months, but the first time we'd fallen pregnant straight away. And 9 months may not seem that long in the grand scheme of things, but 9 times of seeing that not pregnant sign is pretty gutting. And it did seem longer at the time. But don't worry, if you are really worried, though, do go to the doctor. My doctor was great, and I did go and have tests and at least knew that everything was okay. And I would recommend that if you are worried about anything in particular, you may as well get it checked out. And if you can't afford the Careblue ovulation tests, I would recommend those because they worked for us, or any ovulation test if you'd rather get the cheaper ones, because at least that might help a little bit. So that's basically what our trying to conceive story is. If you had a similar experience and it took you a while, let me know. Or if you're trying and there's any questions you have, please just leave anything in the comments section below. I try to always be as open and honest as possible, maybe too much so I apologise if this was a bit too much information. But I just wanted to share my story. And to all those out there who are trying at the moment, good luck, and I'm sprinkling lots of baby fairy dust everywhere.